So he had responded, if every kid had someone to check in on them. We built on that and said if that person had a counselor background, so could talk about trauma, could talk about behavior, mental health, to be able to support that. We talked about having safe houses. We heard your spot over there. We talked about mentorship, peer-to-peers as well, thinking about like 12th graders, older, being with younger elementary schools. And then we talked about being family-centered, because they're still going back to their family's still important. So it was really the village, right? That we all hope we have.
First of all, I said, we need a program like M2M. For county services, not just for men, but of course for family with inclusive training. We thought about a safe house like 9 Grove Lane, which closed. There would be a place for respite care for someone like this young man. And the last thing, which I think is the most important, we need to know what's available, because we don't really know what the gaps are. Mm-hmm. And I would like to know what's available. I'm so grateful to know M2M works. And I'm advocating for you, and I know who to talk to. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Did you have something?
Oh, no.
All right. All right, ready tonight. Here we come. Who's the spokesperson?
I don't know that we exactly have a consensus, but I think coordination of resources, after-school programming and mentorship programs, transitional housing, parenting class, and parenting peer providers were some of the things we talked about. And did I miss colleagues? Oops. Okay. I think that one.
Very good, very good. So what will we do better? Now it's time for you as a group to create one single action plan for Marin County. This should be something within your power to advocate for, implement, and have an idea of the funding it would take to make it happen. Items from your dream list might be perfect. This is what you're gonna have to do in your own time. But this is something that you can think about moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give her a hand clap. So when you have that idea, email it to MCCT. Did I get it right? MCCT? Email that idea to MCCT, and we'll give it back to you so you'll see, because we don't want you to do it. So again, notice that. An idea, how we get funding, and what you think we need to be doing. You've kind of given us a dream list. We'll give that back to you. But we want you to think about that a little bit more, and then email that, and then we will find an occasion for us to look at that and say, can that be done? Okay? That's why we want you to get time to think about that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say something. I want to say thank you, but I also want to say, can we leave our number, our email, and what our skill set is, so if y'all need us, you can reach out to us.
Okay, because we were going to give you back an email. Maybe we can ask that in the email, so that, and then what we'll do is we'll collect that through the email, and then we'll ask permission whether we can share that with everybody. But we have to ask permission, right? So we will be getting an email saying the links for everything here, right? Giving back our feedback to you, asking for that, and we'll add that. That's a great addition. And then saying, is it okay for you? And then we'll share with you, if everybody said yeah, say, hey, here's so-and-so, and here's her self-identified skills that she wants to lend to you, right? And so, or he wants to, I'm usually because I'm looking at you. All right, so we will do that. Please take a break now, and don't miss Mara Lisa. She is amazing. And she's a person we all say we're looking for. Amen. All right.
No, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So we have a mirror. We have a knife. We have a rope. We have a radio. The flag that we're gonna vote on. We gotta vote for them.
Fishing pole, flare gun, tarp. First aid kit.
I got you.
Well, you
Mirror for
definitely-
sure.
Okay, circle the mirror, please.
I think I got what I want.
Okay.
Do we feel consensus about the ladder?
Unless you
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I think ladder's pretty handy.
All right. So,
Nothing to eat, like nothing to fish.
Are we trying to get off the island so in the rain? That's where you would need to. There's your sour butter.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the rope. Still. Yeah.
like I said, you gonna work yours, you're gonna work your mirrors, you're gonna be able to make fires, so you can make, at night, you can make a fire so that you're letting people know that
With the knife, you can make rope from the
That's right.
the bark of the tree.
all the
So,
stuff.
so I have those two.
Well, it depends on what you find for.
Well, you were talking about the frond, and then
Yeah,
you know with the
coconut fronds. And you can do,
and then,
you can
and then
make.
if you
You can braid
interweave those.
But what if we, how are we gonna boil the water? Where are we gonna turn it? If we put it in the top.
Well, if there's food, assuming there's food in containers, so as we go through like a can of soup or something, then we use that can, the water, you can put a little fire into that and boil the water.
We've got it.
So we have food, knife, lighter, flare gun, and first aid.
Everyone's behind 5 minutes left.
But does anybody want to dispute any of those? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's super important.
I know it sounds so
We did say food locker.
well, we did, but you know what I'm thinking about is water. Like we're gonna need water. That's what I was thinking. The tarp can hold water and cover by
shelter.
Yeah, tarp.
I also do like the tarp.
Lighter. Flashlight, that
Take that up.
You're part of that team, you have two. Case of rope.
Oh, hello.
Guitar.
We have a leader in our team name is Phoenix.
Yes.
Like Phoenix Rising.
Yes. So we're going through the items.
Fishing
Took
pole,
off shotgun, we don't like that. Okay, perfect. We have knife, case of rum, guitar, food locker, rope, toothbrush, life jacket, radio, fishing pole. Okay, I think we're gonna do fishing pole. Flare gun, tarp, cell phone, first aid kit, a bottle of antibiotics, toothpaste, solar power bake.
Sure, it's long. These old bones. I might be the guy in the corner with this,
adventure to Iowa over the summer.
Oh, okay.
So she's gonna take a little break.
Yeah, but a lighter has a certain amount of use.
That's why I chose at the bottom. I chose the solar power.
Mirror. So we got mirror, that's one, everybody right? Mirror, what's the second one, anyone?
Solar power bank is a pretty good one.
You only have maybe about 7 minutes. And that's being very gracious.
What's that? What'd you say? I was like, how much time do you have left?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I
Okay, knife.
Yeah, but what are we solar powering?
well, what you're gonna need to do is, you're right, what are we making power?
Well, it says that you're on an island.
Flare gun, flare gun.
And I'm glad I'm up before you finish eating. But I was telling Myra, we're gonna have to do some exercises before I get up because I I know how people are when they eat, they get restless. I am a walker, so I can't stand in front of them, if that's okay. Change the game. I run a program called Man to Man Urban Youth Advocate. And this program is a multifaceted program. It addresses most of the needs of most men, specifically African American, but it touches on all men. And as I go in and talk about it, I'll let you know more. Pastor Floyd said that I've been here for 6 months. The program's been here for 6 months. I was living in San Anselmo from 2013 to 2021. Worked on my master's degree in theology at San Francisco Theological Seminary, while being a single father with a daughter in the 3rd grade, son in the 6th grade. And I want to share an experience that I had here in Marin County. I remember one day in the summer I was taking my son to school. And as I was taking him to school, I was on my way back. Now, you know, I live less than maybe 2-3 minutes from Marin Catholic. My son had a scholarship at Marin Catholic. He was going there for summer school. And as on the way home, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Professor Drake and how it merges coming from where the college is, heading towards San Anselmo. An individual decides that they want to run me off the road. They're trying to go fast to get in front of me, and to the point that I just let them go. And then all of a sudden they decide to slam on their brakes. I'm driving a big truck. I skid into the car, but there's not a scratch on the car. Not on their car, not my car. They get out the car with a shiny piece. Now I need to let you know about the culture. I'm from East Oakland. So if someone crashes into your car, you do not stop right there. You go somewhere where it's safe. Second thing, I am a Marine. So I am trained to go to a safe place. And I struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. I am a disabled veteran. So I just need to paint the picture for you. So here I go around the individual and I go to the next city, which is San Anselmo. I call the police, the highway patrol, and I wait 1 hour for them to show up. The person shows up, waits for a while, comes back, and arrests me. Said I talked to the other individual on the phone, and I have to arrest you or I'm going to lose my job. There's a neighbor that comes by and says, you don't even know him. This is not the person you think. She said, he goes to the seminary. He says, my dad went to the seminary. That means nothing. So they locked me up for 3 days.
Wow.
Now I'm a single father. So now I gotta find a way of getting my kids home. They keep me in there for 3 days. They don't have anything. They release me and says, we're gonna release them with all the charges dropped. But what they're doing is they're contemplating and trying to figure out what next move they can do. So I'm asking them, what is the charge? And the charge is assault with a deadly weapon. Using my car as a weapon. Now when we talk about racism, then let's talk about real racism, because at the time, I couldn't afford an attorney. And an attorney told me that I had to pay him $10,000 for him to represent me. And I began to tell him what I do. I go in San Quentin State Prison. I work with the inmates. I've been doing it since 1995. I grew up in East Oakland when it was the murder capital. If any time I should have been arrested was then. I have never been arrested, no felons, nothing. until I come move here into Marin County. Now when they released me, I have court date. I show up at the court date and they said, no, you don't have to show up. If we find any new evidence, we will contact you. A month later, they have me now for assault with a deadly weapon, reckless driving, and there was one other charge, assault with a deadly weapon and hit and run. Now, how do you hit and run when you called the police and waited an hour for them to show up? So the individual who was representing me says, this is BS. If it was me, it would have never happened. Now, he's a white individual, and he says, well, let me tell you what would have happened if the charges would have went through. I need to paint the picture for you. If I would have been charged for assault with a deadly weapon, I would never be able to drive in the United States again in my life. That's what would have happened. So they made me do they never allowed me to go to court. They never allowed me to bring in witnesses or anything. And I'm painting the picture because I need to let you know this is what happens in Marin County. This is what happens when my son goes to school at White Hill and he's been called a nigger 3 times. And the principal does not know how to deal with it, but the assistant principal deals with it. And my son comes home one day and says, Dad, I need to understand, why do they have me down as Caucasian? I said, that's a good question, maybe you should ask. Because they have so many white students, they didn't even take the time to think that he was black. And he had to change. So this is when we talk about change the game. James Baldwin says this: to be an African American is to be African without any memory, an American without any privilege. This is not just a quote. This is actually how we feel. See, the history goes way back. The history, when we talk about epigenetics and people say, oh, we talk about slavery, why we gotta go back there again? Because it's still affecting us today. And the mentality remains the same. I run a really good program, and I'm going to talk about these programs, but what happens is, when I go and I speak to Marin County says, this is a wonderful work that you're doing. It's great things and it's definitely needed, but we can't fund it. I have a program, I don't want to fast forward, but let me just talk about the mission. We are a nonprofit deeply committed to changing the game and breaking the cycle of father absence for our families of color in San Francisco Bay Area. We're changing the game by providing the culturally relevant knowledge, skills, resources, and support for young men and fathers to thrive. You probably say, well, fatherhood, what does that got to do with it? It has everything to do with it. Because maybe you don't understand the statistics. I wrote my dissertation on urban men, disadvantaged urban men in urban communities. I went back to East Oakland because that's where I'm from, and we went all the way back to the 1940s. Now I'm trying to figure out how was 1940, Oakland was such a thriving community, and then when I graduated from high school, it's the murder capital. That when the blacks began to move into East Oakland, the whites began to move out. But they didn't just move out, they uprooted their businesses. And so what happened was, it became what they call an underground economy. The underground economy means that a lot of illegal activities was taking place, selling drugs, prostitution, and all kinds of things of that nature. So then I'm thinking that the issue is the youth, and we gotta address the youth. So I finished my dissertation, and I'm gonna finish my thesis. I'm moving into my dissertation. The door is already open. All I have to do is come up with a solution to the problem, and I'm done. Well, the youth were not the problem. The fatherlessness was the problem. There's a guy named Dr. Blackenhorn, and he says that fatherlessness is the most destructive trend of our society in every country. He says 90% of our social ills are caused by absent fathers. Now let me tell you how that goes. When we talk about poverty, we're talking about a lack of a father. When we talk about teenage pregnancy, we're talking about fatherlessness. When we talk about economic resources, or we're talking about drug addiction, or high school dropouts, or incarceration, or human trafficking, this is all revolving around fatherhood. And fatherhood is a situation where we're not included in the equation, we're an afterthought. You go and go through a divorce, it's like you divorce your children, and you have to start all over again. When you go before the judge doesn't look at you as another part of the family. But the father is a major piece of the family. Because, you know, just like the mom has a role, the father has a role too. And if you take the father out the picture, you affect the children. Am I making sense? Here it talks about the problem. It says more than 20 million children live in a home without the physical presence of a father. Millions more have dads who are physically present but emotionally absent. It says here, 64% of Black African Americans, U.S. single parent households by ethnicity, American and Indian, poverty. So when we talk about this fatherless piece, it's not just what we do for fatherlessness. That's one piece. But men struggle with so many other issues, and we'll talk about those issues. So we have people say, well, you know, you're doing too much, you know. But when you talk about dealing with men, and specifically Black men, they have a lot of things, they have a lot of issues. They need to learn a lot of things because the things that they should have learned from their father, they didn't. And because they didn't, they have identity issues. And when they gather their identity, it's from people who doesn't really know what it means to be a man. Black families are a huge 64% of a single parent home. Know the symptoms: poverty, substance abuse, physical and emotional health, educational achievement, crime. You know, you think, well, they're just some bad actors. I need you to understand one thing about African American men. It's the only race that goes from a child to an adult. We don't do the adolescent. At a very young age, when the father leaves the home, you are considered the man of the house at 5 years old. You're considered not to cry. You're not supposed to show any emotions. You're supposed to be tough, show any vulnerability. You can't be transparent because it's a sign of weakness. So when Jameer was talking about, you know, how it is that our Pastor Floyd was talking about how it is a person don't trust you. When I raise my hand and talk to a group like this and you're all Black, and I'm saying, how many of you all have trust issues? And everybody raise their hand? Or I have an exercise where I give everybody in here a mirror, and I say, look in the mirror and tell me what you see. And nobody wants to look in the mirror. That's the issue that we're dealing with. And then when you talk about dealing with mental health issues, and you got people dealing with the culture and don't understand the culture, how do you relate to them? When you're talking to people, for instance, I did a focus group in Marin City, and I asked them, when you go into a clinic and you ask for help and you begin to explain what you're dealing with, how do you feel? And they said, they make me feel worse than I did when I went in there. Because it was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you. What did you do then? I don't know how I would even deal with that. But they're trained to be mental health workers, and they're getting all the funding. Are you hearing me? 80% of adolescents have psychotic hospitals come from fatherless homes. Physical and emotional health. Poverty, 44% more likely to be raised by fatherless families. 70% crime, sexual activity, educational achievement, substance abuse. They're medicating themselves because they're hurt. They got pain. They got issues. And when you come to a place like Marin County, how do you deal with that situation? What do you say to them? How do you fund programs like Man to Man? You probably never even heard of the program. But in Alameda County, it's very well known. And not as it well known, the judges are asking the participants, have you participated in Man to Man? The judge won't even take them and even send them to our 52-week domestic violence class. We actually have a domestic violence class at St. Andrew's Church that is funded. And we got one person. One person. And I guarantee you, it's the best program in Marin County as it pertains to domestic violence. Because I teach the same class in San Quentin State Prison, and it's filled up and a waiting list. The same class, I have 35, 40 people in Oakland, and we even actually feed them a meal while they are participating in the program at no extra charge. But we can't do that with one person. Studies have shown that when a child is raised with a father in the home, he or she is 4 times less likely to live in poverty, 7 times less likely to become pregnant as a teen, 2 times as likely to complete high school, less likely to have behavior problems, less likely to go to prison, less likely to suffer obesity, less likely to force abuse and neglect, leading to psychological trauma, which we deal with all the time. You know what? You don't need to go to the military to have post-traumatic stress disorder. You just need to be black. You just need to be black. Because I got to train my son how to come home in Marin County. I got to tell him, when you get pulled over by the police, this is what you do. When you go and get pulled over by the police, you tell them, hey, my dad is expecting me. Can I call my dad? That is to warn me that he is with the police. Why? Because he's 6'5" and he's 16 years old. They don't look at him as a kid. He's a grown man. Now, when we talk about the law and we talk about the court system, now, you know, if you're white, let's be right. If you're white and you do a certain charge, you go to juvenile hall because you're not of age. If you're black, you go to prison or jail. This is not something that we're playing about. This is real life situations. And I actually had a fallout with a good friend of mine for 20 years about this situation. Because Gavin Newsom basically said, it ain't our fault. It's not their fault. It's the institutions. And the woman called me, she said, what do they mean about the institutions? I don't understand. I said, that's because you're privileged. Not privileged because you got a lot of money. Privileged because of the color of their skin. That you don't have to worry about somebody following you in the store. You don't have to worry about when you walk across the street, somebody can hear the doors locked. You don't have to worry about when you get on the elevator, they take their purse and put it on the other side. You don't have to worry about when you sell your house. You get what you pay for it, but ours is under the cost. And then you wonder why we are what we, why they're so angry, why they're so frustrated. And trust me, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate about how I talk. But that's the other part that you don't understand. Oh, did you hear how he was hollering and screaming? He's angry. No, I'm not angry. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated, but I'm not angry. Man to man is a solution. We focus on the father as a solution, not an accessory to the family dynamic. Engagement is not an ideal, but a tool to be used to reduce poverty and to increase home life stability. Bringing the father back into the equation as a support and a protective source. Children with engaged fathers are physically healthier, more physically secure, better achievers in school, more accountable, less impacted by negative traditional engagement, and feel more secure and confident. Now watch this. Anybody seen the movie Claudine? Okay, well, pull it up on YouTube and look at it. It's a movie back in the 70s where the father didn't need to be in the house. We'll give you all the public assistance you want. We'll give you VA. We'll give you Section 8 and everything that you need in order. You can have as many babies and we will give you money for each and every one of them. But the main thing you cannot have is a man in the house. As long as we can keep the man in the house, we can keep the house divided, and we can keep him in poverty and in prison and in chains and shackles. Our method is, the training is comprised of 4 core curriculums. We start off with the fatherhood, 101, emotional management series. Men struggle with emotions. Men have cut their emotions off. That's why a person can go in and shoot everybody in the school and have no remorse. The emotion part has been cut off because it was to the point where it says, be a man, toughen up. Men don't cry. And then they suck it up, but they suppress it. And it's like a pressure cooker ready to explode. And then when I'm talking to them and saying quit, and I'm saying, hey, this is a safe place. This is a place where you can be yourself. And if anybody is judging you, I'm kicking them out the class. Because you need to be able to express how you feel. Not because you're weak, not because you're a sissy, because you're human. And humans have emotions. Conflict management series. You know how we deal with conflict? We shoot, we kill, right? That's because that's all we know. We're in a survival mode. Maybe not here in Marin, but there's a lot of places all across the country, and even probably in Marin, because when you're getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you say, well, I'm gonna just deal with it the way I know how. No, we have to teach you better skills. How to actively listen, effectively communicate. What is miscommunication? How to deal with conflict. Not only with your spouse, but in the job situation. Without a father, you don't learn these things, because that fatherhood should be setting up. Now, I'm not saying all fathers are great. There's some fathers that probably should be fathers. And there's some fathers that probably are physically there, but emotionally absent. But I'm talking about a father, a positive father, who's pouring into his children, and he's setting up a foundation for his children. How many of us know what a foundation is? If you're building a house and the foundation is off 6 inches, it's really actually off 6 feet. And if you build on top of that, if it's a faulty foundation, then most likely the house is going to be faulty. If you start off that way, that's how you end. That's what I'm trying to tell you about the importance of a father. We give them life skills series. We got the last time in. Last time in, I've been going to St. Quentin since 1995. Playing basketball against the inmates. And then I started working with, a church and took over the prison ministry. I worked with the San Quentin News Department. Now we teach all of these classes in San Quentin. Now listen to this. I go in on Mondays and I teach this program from 9 to 11, the man-to-man program, all of these curriculums. And then from 11 to 1, I teach the fatherhood class, teaching them how to be engaged in their children's life while they're in prison for free. I don't have a budget for that. I've been doing this for a long time because I'm passionate about it. Well, why do I have to do it for free? Because nobody wants to fund it because it's not important. That's why. Why change the game? Because Marin County services are designed by people who don't look like us, don't live like us, and don't learn like us. The game is underfunded, the players are unempowered, and the scores is unimpressive. How do we win the rules? That we can't play. Because what happens is the rules keep changing. Well, you go to work, you go to fight for custody, and documentation. You give them documentation, they don't read it. I want you to go on to the family court system in Marin County and look at the reviews, because there's several of the reviews that's talking about me. I don't understand how this father, he's committed to his children, and every time he asks for something, it's denied. He showed that the mom was out of order in terms of the court order, and they still denied him. I asked to have it removed from Marin County because of the biasness, and she refused to do it. I don't live in Marin County anymore, and the mother don't live in Marin County. So why are we keeping it in Marin County? Because it's control. It's still a slave mentality. You're gonna control my house, and you're gonna tell me that I can't take my daughter's phone for 3 days, and if I do it, it's contempt of court. You're gonna tell me that you're gonna make me allow the mother to sign over my right because I got full custody because you're a judge and you can do it. You work for child support services, and when the judge says that she has to pay this after I had to wait 5 years and get an attorney to make her pay what she's supposed to pay, and then the lady from child support services who's supposed to support the best interest of the child says, you're gonna make her pay all of that? When I show up late because I got a flat tire, the first time in 12 years, and I call in and say, I have a flat tire and I can't make it, and you dismiss my case. But then when the mom doesn't show up, they said, let's call her. And call her consecutively. And when I tell the judge that it's a biased system she uses against me, and everything I ask for, she denies. Let's keep it real here. This is a situation that you have a chance to make a difference. You can be a part of the solution, or you can be a part of the problem. What are you? I was laughing because earlier I was talking about preaching at Pastor Floyd's church, and this young lady came to me and she said, it was actually an older woman, and she said, I heard that you were preaching. And I was so glad to hear that you were preaching that I came only for you. I said, well, God bless you. She said, but then it got a little uncomfortable. It got awkward. I said, good, because that's when the change comes, when it's uncomfortable and when it's awkward. Because then I want you to be thinking about this when you go home and go to sleep. Can you live with yourself knowing that this is happening? Or when you have a conversation, you may not be racist, but your friend might be, and you don't say anything about it. That's a problem. How do we win with rules that we can't play? We gotta change the game. These are the classes that we teach. Emotional management, our 16th session. The psychoeducational training includes men and their emotions, managing emotions through the stress, emotion, and social intelligence. Conflict management, the 10 sessions training includes why we fight, healthy conflict, intercultural conflict. Now listen, intercultural conflict. These are classes that we designed. Why? Because I didn't have this when I grew up. So everything that I thought about, what I wished I had, me and my wife designed these. And when I say life management, the life skills are highly customizable. They're customizable for people who look like me, that they can relate and understand. I'm not just trying to put a program together. I'm talking about I'm putting a program. When these men come out of San Quentin, they don't just come out of San Quentin. We have an apprenticeship program already in place for them, teaching them how to be carpenters, electricians, plumbers, concrete masons. We're allowing them to get jobs at PG&E and BART. What is my job? My job is to prepare them for the transition back into society, and that they make enough money that they don't have to do illegal activity so they never have to come back. So it's an all multifaceted program. It's dealing with all the issues. Why wouldn't we fund a program like this? Tell me. Why would we not fund a program like this? And I have a friend and he says, you know what? I get millions of dollars every year. And I'm not doing anything remotely close to what you're doing. I don't even know how you're doing this. how do we do this? Alone. Because maybe it's not important to you. You know, I teach these guys about empathy. Empathy is walking in somebody else's shoes. And I asked them, why do we not have empathy? And they said, I don't know. I said, because we're selfish people. We don't really care about other people. We're just concerned about us and how we live and what's important to us. And we'll say, yeah, that makes me feel bad, and I understand what he says, but then you go home, close your door, and life is like business as usual. Fatherhood 101, our Fatherhood series is made up of 12 highly interactive sessions. This encourages a bonding of participants, creating the peer support and fellowship that lasts long after class ends. Fathers are the foundation. We teach them what love has to do with it, because a lot of them don't have love. They've never been loved. They got the false identity of love. Not just men, but young girls too. And that's why they're being human trafficked. Because somebody told them they loved them. And they never had a man to tell them that before. And they said, well, you know what, come on, honey, let me show you how much I love you. And I'm gonna buy you whatever you want. And then it says, now you gotta go to work for that. But see, what a father does is he's the gatekeeper. He stops that from happening. He intercepts all that. See, I'm that kind of father that I go through my daughter's phone. I go through this, you need to give me the phone, and I need to go through your emails, text messages, everything. If you don't like that, give me the phone, because I bought it, it belongs to me. You'd be surprised what I find on that. Yeah, I'm a nosy father, but I'm trying to save my daughter's life. Do you understand the mental health issues that my daughter and my son has gone through going to school in Marin County? Yeah, it's a great school system, and they're getting a great education. And when my son had to go through, deal with the racism and all of the stuff he had to deal with, I said, I'm glad you're dealing with this, son. And he said, why? I said, because it's the real world. It's good to know it now. That when you see it coming, you recognize it. Do you raise your children like that? I don't see any yes.
Yes.
Last time in addition to the FAST program, curriculum, our fathers who are also returning citizens may also receive support in the last time in program, including pre-release counseling, training, housing assistance, transportation, job training, placement. I mean, we partner with various organizations. We collaborate with various organizations. I taught this class in San Quentin, and I talked about grieving. And I said, I know you guys probably never grieve. I said, let me tell you a story. I said, there was a time in my life that my heart was so hard that I actually had to ask myself the question, if my mother died, would I cry? Now, it wasn't the fact that I didn't love my mother, because I was very close to my mother. It was the fact that my heart was so hard, and it was so hard for me to cry because I hadn't cried in so long. I didn't know how that felt. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And having these men understand that they get a place where they can cry and they can grieve and nobody's going to judge them, and they can be vulnerable and they can be transparent and they can be human. And so we came up with a program that we're doing every year in Oakland at Lake Marin, and it's called HUMAN, Healing Urban Men Across the Nation. It's a family fun day that a father can bring his child to Lake Marin, listen to live music, comedy, face painting, jumpers, playing games, activities. All of this is free for the father who has no money. Just bring your child and have a good time. This is our second annual one that we're doing, June 10th. We have 10 entertainers. We have public health clinics set up for fathers to be tested for HIV, to be tested for high blood pressure, diabetes, because we don't go to the doctor. We don't go to the doctor. Maybe we don't have medical. Are we just afraid of what might be told to us? So we're going to bring the doctors to them. This intimate partner violence prevention is a program I started back in 2013 in Oakland, mandated through the court system for 52 weeks, a year. And they said, you know what? I hate coming to this, but I'm happy when I'm here because I always walk away from something. And judges are asking me, have you been to man to man? And I come back and says, you know, Dr. P, they asked me, did I go to man? I said, well, what did you tell them? I said, yeah. They said, good, it's a good program. We want that to be known here in Marin. We have a track record. It's an evidence-based organization. We've proven that it works. So why would you not embrace a program like this? What is domestic violence? We talk about. We call the causes of domestic violence, the cycle of violence, the physiological of anger, the relationship between anger and depression. We talk about substance abuse and domestic violence, how to engage in conflict resolution, effective listening, how to identify the triggers that may lead to domestic violence, relaxation training and mindfulness exercises. The IPV program is a 52-session educational training on the causes of domestic violence and ways to prevent it for court-mandated participants are those that just want, in San Quentin, they're like, you know what, I just want to come because I got issues. One guy came to my class and he was like, Dr. P, I need to be in your class. I said, I don't even know you, sir. He said, but I need to be in your class. I said, but the class is full. He said, I murdered my wife. This is real. And he didn't look like me. Because when we're talking about San Quentin, he was a white guy. There's a Hispanic guy. There's Asian guys. There's Indian guys. It doesn't matter. Because really, when we talk about the issues that men deal with, a lot of men deal with the same issues. It's just that we're affected the most. And you say, well, why do you say that? Because all lives matter. Yeah, I understand. All lives does matter. But all lives are not in danger. Listen to that. San Quentin State Prison. We currently teach our last time in program in San Quentin State Prison. The program is a culmination of 4 core curriculums. Intimate partner, domestic violence prevention, emotional management, conflict management, fatherhood 101, inside out dad. The program is designed to increase accountability, enhance violence prevention, and to reduce recidivism. We provide incarcerated men with the culturally relevant knowledge, skills, and practical application. So we do role playing and all that. We do real life situations to manage emotions and to navigate the conflictual situations towards positive, nonviolent outcomes. The program focuses on emotional competencies such as self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy, so that participants become aware of how they are the architects of their decisions and are responsible for the outcomes and their effects on others. Through these methods, we achieve the desired goals of producing, restore men who are equipped with the tools to be positive, nonviolent role models while incarcerated, and men who can lead their families and communities once released. That's changing the game. That's changing the game. And it works. And if you want to see the data of how it works, I can show you the outcomes. So now that you know the why and the how of what we do, why are we offering services in San Quentin and not Marin County? I'm glad you asked. Man and Man does offer services in Marin County, and we currently have 1 student in our intimate partner violence prevention, and I teach it just like we got 30. This class was offered free to the county with a $30 weekly free participants via grant through St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, and we have been told there is no cases to refer. In Marin County in 2022, there were 202 felony domestic violence cases of 2,029 cases referred, which is 10%. 415 misdemeanor domestic violence cases of 4,700 cases referred. 49% of homeless clients at St. Vincent de Paul Marin served last year have a history of domestic violence during some point in their lives. And according to Donna Garsky, Executive Director of Sangerville-based Center for Domestic Violence, her group has identified 3 local trends: increased rates, strangulation, increased sexual assault rates, partners who left a relationship, increased violence against pregnant women. And District Attorney Lori said her office handled 693 domestic violence cases in 2021 compared to 695 in 2020. Effectively, no change. We don't have any cases. But I know people that are taking cases online. And while they're taking them online, they're not going. They're getting high, they're drinking while they're on there. And they even have restraining order cases. And they stand with the person they got the restraining order. And I want to close on this. Hear me when I say this. It's not something that I heard. This is something I know. All the domestic violence cases in Alameda County that I have had go to my class have been majority African Americans, and they all get felonies. I called the guy who's in my class, and I asked him, I said, when you went to your domestic violence class in Marin County, I texted him last night, did you get a felony or a misdemeanor? He comes back, misdemeanor. I want to close on this. Domestic violence. Here's a video.
Hi, I'm Gordon Pickney. 1-800-799-7230. It happened before Christopher Maurice Brown. My mama, a delicate fusion of Robin Fenty and Anna Mae. What's love got to do with it? A very real question in between these 4 walls that had obviously gone mute and blind, bound by the truth and fear of abuse I never told. I never got on stage and recited this side of my truth. I was afraid it spoke, or be one in this twisted wheel of life. Coming from a family full of secrets, outing one was punishable by exclusion. And to me, inclusion meant love, so no whispers about how daddy painted mommy's face. No proclamations about how I lived with Vincent Constilia, and at age 6, so ripe I was muzzled like a savage. This is a dream. A figment of your imagination turned nightmare. It never happened. Go to your room. My dad beat the hell out of my mama. And a part of me was so confused, because how could a man so wise, so smart, so loving, transform? Jekyll and Hyde had nothing on my daddy. I remember one day, he took his knees and placed them on her ribs. His hands he wrapped around her neck in preparation to take her life. She didn't yell or cry. Almost like after 28 years of attachment, she was ready to die, or maybe play possum until his conscience yelled as loud as she could from the stairs, "Daddy, stop!" Not knowing who exactly I was searching for, but as he turned around, it was my daddy, my hero. So I never told. Can you imagine the chip on my shoulder when she says she stayed for the kids? Do you know what it feels like to be the reason your mother died while still alive? She stayed for the kids. Which is why I tell people I understand why she hates me just as much as she loves me. You try looking your rapist in the face every day. You try staring at the reflection of your past every afternoon. I am walking a hard drive of my father and his sins. She confessed to me that he said if OJ got away with it, he can too. So sometimes I get sick of hearing dudes say they got the juice. My first example of how words can completely bound and gag someone or completely morph lives. My mother sleeps with her door locked, a bookcase behind it and a dresser behind that. She stays up until 3 a.m. singing and praying to her something to believe in for peace. She's still scared of my father. Even though he's remarried and lives 2 hours away, far isn't far enough. He still touches her at night. He still manages to take her breath away. I moved to another state at 18. Assuming she feels better now, thinking maybe I'm a better child if I allow her the opportunity to forget. Still maneuvering like a 6-year-old, still trying to save my mama. Domestic violence happened before Chris Brown. It happens after Chris Brown. Any of us could be Rihanna. So 1-800-799-7233. If you are in danger, tell.
But one of them was, we spend money on clothes, right? But let's take it even further. What if I dress my child up because that's the only thing I can afford and it makes me feel good? Because I have to find some positive light during the day, and I know at least that when I get up, my little man is going to be clean. We, black people, we find small joys, great joys in the smallest things. And most people think we just like shopping. Yes, we got a question. Yes, ma'am.
I think that sometimes it's really important. It's not just about that. A little louder, Jamie.
Hold on, Jamie.
Oh, yeah. I think, being a person of color in this room, I echo what he says. Why do we always have to be hide behind a white person to be able to be seen? I'm a brown person, but doesn't mean that I don't share the values he put to the table. I think it affects us, racism, because we have to find a way to have something to accentuate our being, to be seen. How come we have to do that? Why can't we be seen as ourselves? I'm not saying it's just only one color, or what I'm trying to say is in Marin. When I got here 12 years ago, it's a very white place. I was in Marin City. I was queuing out for Starbucks to get a drink. And when the barista was available, she said, next. She right past me to the two white folks that behind me. I was like, hey, I'm here. Couldn't you see me? And then at first I was like, oh, no, don't make us see you. And then after that, I talked for a while and I was like, I'm here. Why can't you see me as who I am? Why do I have to announce my presence so that you can hear me? That's why when you talk about racism, what he has gone through, I've been there myself too, trying to get help for myself, being on a marginalized, underserved, and unserved community. And a lot of times, when you're a person of color, this is the way we are treated. I think we can change this narrative now, right? Because you gave us a platform, giving us an identity to see that, all our lives matter. And if you don't use, back then you said, come, watch me. Today I'm standing before you. I'm actually a peer advocate, peer and community advocate. I mean the difference I want to see. And Jamia, I want to say, what you've gone through, nobody should have been there. The synergistic trauma that you've gone through is much more than your shoulders could handle. So I hope today, with these conversations, we all can build collaborations from bottom up.
Yes, ma'am.
To change the narrative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I think Robert.
Don't give me a mic. So, I was just gonna comment on, like we were talking about women and the care that they get, and, coming and asking for services, and I was pregnant with my daughter. I lost my job like about 3 weeks after I found out I was pregnant. And so I went to the county to try and get Medi-Cal, and you know, you fill out this form and, you know, so invasive into everything in your life. And so, you know, I'm honest about everything. People said I should have lied, but I'm honest. And so they said that I could not get any Medi-Cal because I owned a car. And that I'd have to sell my car first before I could get anything. And how am I going to even get around without the car? How am I going to get a job without the car? And I couldn't get anything unless I actually, if I had the car. So it's unfortunate, those restrictions. I mean, I don't understand why anything like that would be in place, but they're in place. And so this is something, a barrier, and something that policy needs to happen and change.
You, and then you.
Wow.
First, I want to thank everybody for creating this platform, for yourself, Janair, and for the community. I've been working in youth and family services, mental health for the last 8 years, and I just moved into adult care. And my question has always been, where is the connection back to Marin City? And I have friends there that I went to college with. Paul we're alumni. I just never understood it. It just seems like it's an island unto itself. I grew up in New York City. I grew up on an island myself. But there was such a detachment. I just never understood it. And as I've been in the system of care, there have been some really important things that have gone on in the last 8 years. The peer program, the family support, the family partner program. And I'm just so grateful that there is now a platform that you are standing on, and you're standing on the shoulders of others, right? Trenton, New Jersey, Marin City, and the greater, Bay Area. I hope that people do get today that there is a question that this man is asking. And so I'm going to ask you that question. What is it that you need?
For me, I would like to raise the median income in Marin City from $54,000 to maybe something more affordable, have a living wage. I would like more jobs in Marin City. I know a grocery store is coming. And let's just be real, Paul is doing great things, but he needs help. And for us, having more real conversations outside of certain gatekeepers, because there are people that are on the ground who really need to hear from you. And there are elders in the community who are sitting on mountains of knowledge and experience and have some great ideas that can merge with the youth to take Marin City to the next level. So that's being specific, that's what I would like to see.
Last question, then we're going to go to breakout groups. Go ahead.
Oh, that's so much pressure.
Or whatever, I'm sorry.
Robin Barron, and thank you, Jameer, for your sharing. I think that it was a hard truth to hear, and as an African-American person, I think I also resonated with a lot of what you shared. I know it wasn't easy to share in a mixed race group, and so I just want to acknowledge that. I think that one thing I heard you say, well, before I get to that, I want to say that oftentimes when people talk about the disparities around Black folks, they want to say, well, what about all the other BIPOC folks? And that's a valid concern and truth, but we're here today to talk about African Americans. And it's not saying that one group is higher than the other. But I also like to say our lives can't matter if Black lives don't matter. And so I think that people often forget that African Americans also face anti-Blackness. African Americans are often harder to assimilate into whiteness and are less accepted into proximity to whiteness. And so I think that there are other barriers that folks have to endure that we may not. But I think that if we could just stick to that, all lives can't matter if Black lives don't matter. But also, I want to say, I heard what you said, that Black folks exhaust ourselves to push past the restrictions placed on them. And so I'm wondering if there's any thoughts that you have on ways we can help address that.
And I lied, we do have time for two more questions.
All right. So the one thing about in this county that I noticed is that you never get all three things at once. That's access, utilization, and information. Because if I give you all three, then you can become empowered. I'm going to give you just enough to keep you dependent upon me. And this is why I love Randy so much. She allowed us to be us. She allowed us to be Black in all spaces, in all conversations. This is not to ignore our brothers and sisters of the BIPOC community, but we are the only group that is asked to march with everybody else and not talk about our individualized needs as a people. We are often told to put it on a back burner. It's disguised in all lives matter and so many other things, and when we speak out, we're aggressive. No, we're just saying these are the things that impact our people. We are being specific because that B in that acronym, hell has been put on our shoulders. And I'm not taking nothing away from any other people, but we've been experimented on, castrated, male slaves raped to break us, close our schools down, did everything in our power to destroy us, and even to this day, scientifically, they can't figure us out. And I'm gonna go to the next question, but I want you all to know the oldest skeleton ever found was found in the Great Rift Valley in Ethiopia. I'll let you put two and two together.
Any more questions? And I want to say it's not an either or proposition. As you know, we said to the foundation from our research that actually conversations that are based in one group need to happen for every group. So it's not, today is, we're talking about Black folks, so it is not that we're saying that other conversations don't need to happen, but they need to happen in a very concentrated way, so I appreciate that.
Can you repeat the access, utilization, and the third point?
Information.
Actually, mine is pretty much the same as Debbie's. I just wanted, since this is for everyone and lots of people are going to be taking notes, if you could repeat what Debbie asked. What do you need? What are the three things? Raise median income. You can go ahead. I'd like for you to expand.
Do it again.
Oh, sure. So raise the median income in Marin City. In Marin City is $54,000. If you move into the towers, it drops down to $10,000 a year. Being more strategic and moving as a collective. But the way the grant system is set up, these Black agencies, we gotta fight each other in the pit of death. And silos are promoted when it comes to receiving funding or going after funding. Because psychologically, that's how we have been groomed to be against one another. But you know what's attractive to funders? The first thing they ask you is, who are you working with? How are you accomplishing this? The Marin County Cooperation Team, we have about 50 partners. We have 8 around the country and 16 around the world. On almost every continent. But it all started with me going to agencies in Marin City and said, what is it that you do great? Well, let's come together so we can diversify how you provide services and put it all on a digital platform. And we have a school board member here, Ms. Bonnie. We created MCCT, a digital platform for a community school during the pandemic. There was nothing like it in America. That's a proven fact. Do you know where that was created? And a place where a lot of folks are scared to come to. This is how much ingenuity that you're missing coming off that freeway and you only go to the Starbucks. You have a world-recognized organization. You have a black man running a daycare. You know how he's a unicorn. Remember I told you, you just keep listening to unicorns. It's a few of us in this room. So, being specific, those are the things that I want and would like to see.
Hi, Junior. My question is around the acronym BIPOC, is that what it is? Okay, so I just heard that maybe less than a year ago. And so it seems to me that every few years or so, we change. Like it's African American, it's black, it's colored, it's Negroes, it's all. I am fed up with it, and I'm wondering what's your feelings around everybody keep giving us new names, and so I'm like, can we get one name and let's rock with that? What's your feelings around that?
Because the power of individual thought was taken away from us. And so what you're fighting against is you're fighting against the preconceived notion of us naming ourselves, trying to find our place and so much more. And just so you all know a little history fact, when I say the word ghetto, what people do you think about? Let's be real, you think about black people. I know you do, but how many of y'all know the word ghetto comes from Boer's ghetto, which is a Venetian word, which is where the Jews were kept outside of the Vatican. So that word has nothing to do with this. And then in the 1920s, when everyone was coming to Ellis Island in New York, they referred to ghetto as where the immigrants lived. 1928, am I on it?
Yes, you're on it.
Then it moved to us. That word was created in the 1580s, before our souls even touched this continent. And somehow, some way, you all, your friends, maybe not you, have found a way to attribute it to where the black people live.
So I want to recognize Marilisa and Veronica, who's not here. They did research throughout Marin City, and the reason that we have this concentrated conversation is one of the reasons, she's like, let me talk. One of the reasons we found out from their research, talking to people that y'all don't generally talk to, is that BIPOC was becoming a problematic reality. Again, not something we assumed, but when we did the research, we'll give you a paper on it too. But basically, their research talked about the fact it was a disempowering thing rather than an empowering thing, which has led to this kind of conversation. Like I said, we've done a year of research again. We didn't know where we were going to go, but this is how that happened. That doesn't mean there was intention to do that. But when we talked to the people in Marin City, and we talked to and they talked to a lot of folks, they said this became a disempowering reality rather than an empowering reality, which then led to kind of how this came to be, saying, why don't we do something different and change the game? Here we go.
First, thank you for your presentation. But it strikes me sitting here, we are leaders of organizations, etc. We delegate so much of our work. And I really want to reach out to you and also implore everyone here to reach out to you to provide this presentation and this talk and this hard talk with our staff, right? The individuals who are actually engaging community members and are providing that service. I think that is more, today is powerful, right? Obviously, it's a truism, but this message needs to go to our collaborative staff who are forward-facing and working with community members as they come to them in times of need. As a public defender, that is, this is crisis, right? You are being charged with a criminal case, or you have some situation that will affect your liberty. So how can we do that as leaders and reach out to you? And are you open to that?
Yes, I am. And it's funny because my breakout group flows right into that.
So you're ready to do your breakout group?
I am.
Yeah, the number one thing that could be changed without any money for BIPOC people in Marin City was customer service. Number one thing. Didn't cost any money, right? You just have to get your staff to do the right thing, which is why it's so important. Did you?
I'll just do the logistics. So before Jamir gives his presentation, for the breakout groups that he'll walk us through, on your name tag, you have your group number. We're gonna disperse you all. So group number 1 is in that back corner, group 2 is here.
Director of the Marin County Cooperation Team. Before we get started, I just want to thank school board members, folks on the nonprofit realm, governmental institutions, one of our great partners, Mr. Stephen Burke, for joining us. This is not a conversation to beat you up. This is more of a conversation for you to understand the psychology and the strength that it takes to be a black person, to walk into your office and ask for help. Most of us do not explore these things, but the challenges that it takes to say, help me, and what I have to go through to make it to your office, to fill out your grant reporting, when I know the odds are stacked against me.
Is it okay? Nope. It's not okay. Yeah, all right.
So, I'm a father, son, brother, and friend, but before any of these things, when I'm out in the world, I'm what the world sees as a black man. My life's journey has been shaped by this reality. Let me put things in perspective for you. My wife and I were in Mill Valley having lunch, 2:30 in the afternoon, and I saw someone sticking their middle finger up at me and my wife. Now, it couldn't be me. And they began to say, we hate your black skin. Do we have any kids in here? No, okay. I hate you, you fucking nigger. Now, I have a great relationship with Mill Valley. This woman starts walking, proceeds towards me. I hate your black skin. It's a beautiful day outside. She comes across the street and lifts up her dress and tells me, do you know what, in front of my wife. The psychology of that in a place where I have great relationships, it did something to me. So I wanted us to ground in that because we will be dealing with the psychology of it. A little bit about me. I have a master's degree in education, former doctoral student. I lived in Abu Dhabi for 5 years, where I started the first ever mentoring agency for young African Americans who live in the United Arab Emirates. Work closely with the Al Nahyans, which is the ruling family of Abu Dhabi, and also work closely with the police force as well over there. I know I'm a unicorn in this county, but that's because you fail to see the other unicorns that are running in the forest. So I want you to listen to this poem.
Bear with me, technology is not my trade, so 1 second.
There's one simple hearing hack anyone can use to improve their hearing almost overnight.
1 second, skip
Did you know?
Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed.
What I want you all to do is cup your hands like this. Put them up to your face. Take it down. Say the word Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
You have just taken your mask off and you have just said the Zulu saying, I am because we are. So you just made a commitment to be aligned with what you hear today. Some of the obstacles in this county is 6,000 black people, 2.9% of the population. So we are a minority in a minority. Some of the obstacles that we face before coming to see you are various forms of racism and even some self-hate. I know we're all not fans of Kanye West, but he has a line that says, "They made us hate ourselves and love their wealth." I really want you to understand, being a parent going into a social service office. How many of you have ever received CalFresh? So that means the rest of you do not even know what it's like to complete that form and do everything that you can do when you get to the office and they treat you like you're not worth anything. I have filled out CalFresh. I have been homeless. But I also know what it's like when folks on the other side of the desk see a mother come in with a bonnet on with her kids on her hip and you prejudge. Do you know what it took for that mother to get out that bed? No, you don't. You judge. Well, if that was me, well, it's not you. And so we look at the various forms of racism, structural, racial trauma. Unfortunately for us as black people, that is passed down. And it impacts us in so many ways, but it comes from a place of protection. Don't get too high up because those white folks are going to remind you who you are. Racism has been and will continue to destroy our families, communities, mental health, and even our bodies. How many of you know that people who experience complex racism, which means it's ongoing, physical trauma? Again, you're serving a population you're not even connected to, and taking those into considerations when you're doing your intake forms. Because more than likely, you have your favorite black institute that you deal with, and that's your friend, and you go to them for all of the questions about black people in this community, never even giving that person a chance. And you tell them no. You hoard money. I'm gonna say it. And there are people out there that just want something to eat. And you put these ridiculous criteria in place when you just want a meal, or maybe get some CalFresh, maybe have access to Medi-Cal, maybe get some mental health services. Major depression goes undiagnosed and untreated as disproportionately greater rates and majority of black and Hispanic communities suffer, leading to unnecessary suffering. Survey findings show that black respondents are more likely to seek information on mental health outside the healthcare system, prefer providers with similar life experience, and perceive greater stigma about mental illness in their community. Stop hiring people who can't connect with these communities. Because you don't know. This person go to school for all these years and can't even connect. Why? Because in their mind is, if I was them, I feel much better if I see a Mary Lisa, or if I see an Eileen or Ricky or Stevie or Phil or Marvin, because I know they see me. When you're hiring these folks, think about the customers you serve, the clients that you serve. Will this person be a great fit? Racism, again, going back to impacts you physically. At 12 years old, I started, from 12 to 18, I was beat by the police in Trenton, New Jersey. At 12 years old, I developed psoriasis. Everybody on my team knows I have psoriasis all over my body that's attributed to the things I experienced as a child at the hands of people who were supposed to protect and serve. So when you think racism isn't killing us, it is. That's why you see dementia in so many of our African American elders, because what they experienced when they were younger hurled them towards Alzheimer's and dementia. That's why so many patients who are in these cognitive care clinics have roots in Louisiana, in Mississippi, in North Carolina, South Carolina. And they had enough money to work their way to the West, but by then the damage was already done, and then you come out here and you experience covert racism, where you have your favorite black person. I'm not like that. But when you meet a black person and you try to connect, and you change your voice, and you want to do this signified handshake, and when you want to mock a black woman, you work your neck and everything. No, how about just shaking my hand? You don't have to move your neck when you're repeating what a queen has said, because she said it. So just imagine experiencing all of those forms of racism and still trying to lead a normal life. Imagine explaining to your kids, hey, this is just how the world works. Now imagine a teenager or an individual trying to make it coupled with other societal pressures, trying to be a parent and a provider, a productive citizen, a friend. The world is on my shoulders, and I'm coming into your office, and I want you to help me. But because I'm not dressed appropriately, or I may smell like weed, my clothes may be dirty, you make it the quickest intake as possible. But you don't know. Maybe I tried Prozac and it has a negative impact on me trying to be a parent. Maybe I went cold turkey last night and what you smell is the remnants of the change that I was trying to make in my life. But what about I have my child with me who may have autism and we're just trying to find a school for him and services for them? Or what if I just have my child and he's not feeling today and I don't have a babysitter, so he has to come? Everyone in here is in the customer service business, whether you like it or not. You all agreed to be servants to the community. You don't get to pick and choose who you serve. No matter how much I get PO'd, I still have a job to do. And for agencies in here that connect with a few African American agencies, stop just relying on them for your intel about black people in this county. Create an outreach team. You save for the community, you go to all these conferences, you shake these hands, you kiss these babies, you make these empty promises, but when it comes down to it, you only talk to about 2 people that you know. But what if I got a good idea and the person that you're talking to doesn't even know me, but they see me from afar and they form an opinion, so when I come to you for help, and your mind is stuck, so now I don't even have a fair chance. It's 6,000 people in this county, black people in this county, 2.9%. We are a minority and a minority. There was someone on your phone, sitting in your office, sent you a text message that needed your help, and you determined based on your own calculations and life experience that what they were saying was not important enough. I'll give you an example. I've worked in a couple of school districts, so I'm not going to name any, but I remember a teacher was upset with a kindergartner and said, why can't her mom just do this? Because her mom kept going back and forth, fighting for her child and everything else. And we finally had a meeting, and the mother sat across from the table and said, I'm sorry, but the way my teacher treated me, I was just trying to protect my child. She said, the only reason I went so hard because the teacher who I trusted and loved told me I wasn't anything. And she apologized to the teacher, asking did the teacher apologize? No, it did not. Black people in this county are coming to you, unfortunately, with their hat in their hand. And the least thing that you can do is keep their dignity intact. We're not asking for $1 million. We just want a call back. We want to have an IEP meeting where you're not bringing your feelings in and making the assumption that the parent doesn't understand what you were talking about.
For the video. For the video. Nope, isn't there a video?
Yeah, she has.
We want to make sure the video is available to you afterwards, and you want to do the sound.
Sorry, I just get passionate.
It's okay.
But again, we're looking at the psychology. The strength to make that call, borrow money or come to your office, use a sick day to ask for help, or just need to receive some positive energy from an outside source to keep going. Some people walk into your office looking for you to transfer some of that energy. But you bring your bullshit into the office and make it about you. Stay home. That's not needed. Stop thinking black women are angry when they're passionate, because they often always told no and made to be looked at as if they have masculine energy. No, our women are just strong. We're going to stop making excuses to put us out of the room, because like I tell my staff, you go in there yelling, that is their excuse not to help you. Forget I'm hungry, or I'm going to do some other things, and I finally got this appointment. Or when they have to sit in their car before they go into office and say, damn, I hope I say something that they're gonna help me today. I hope I'm hungry enough. I hope they see me. Oh, I got this bonnet on, I can't take it off because I really can't afford to get my hair cut, and I really don't have money to go to the wash house. I know I smell, but God, I just hope they just don't tell me no. Because those of us who've been in that position, we've had those conversations with ourselves in that car. And you think we just lazy. We get beat up so much that sometimes we just throw our hands up. Racism can erode the physical well-being. The chronic stress of experiencing discrimination can gradually erode people's physical well-being over time, according to Marin from arguably the most prestigious university in America. They have scientific proof that these experiences are killing us. And how Pastor Floyd spoke about black women and giving birth who experience racism. Not only do they have low birth rates, but the doctors don't even give them the same type of care. It is an epidemic that black women are dying in these birth rooms. When we come to the doctors and ask for help, I'm scared, the psychology, because everything is telling me that I'm not going to be okay, but you hold all the cards. And you don't see me. I'm gonna tell you a story. Most of you know me, know this story. I came back from Abu Dhabi, I was depressed. Didn't know what to do. I had a job, but coming from a place where you don't see homelessness and crime and despair and so much, being dropped back into it, let me go see a psychiatrist. Met the psychiatrist the first day. I told him all about my life, everywhere I've been, my education. He looked me dead in my face and said, "Are you lying?" I said, excuse me? I mean, because, you know, black people, I mean, they really don't have that life experience of going to the Taj Mahal and seeing the pyramids and everything else, or having the type of education and leading the life that I live. But I'm also from Little Homes Projects in Trenton, New Jersey. 3-bedroom house, 15 of us. We heat our house by the oven. My grandmother worked at Meadow Lakes Senior Home, and she would bring home disposable washcloths, and that's how we washed up. But this doctor proceeded after the first visit to put me on Prozac. Do you know me well enough? I took my mask off to come ask you for help. And I'm gonna say this, it is some black people who engage in this behavior too. Because your boss gave you this false sense of power that you think you can lord over black people who really need the help. And you play the gatekeeper. The whole time the boss don't even know you're turning away people. Yeah. Remember, self-hate too. She cited a study showing that people who experience years of microaggressions develop heart disease. You speak so well, Jameer. Wow. Where'd you grow up? Trenton, New Jersey. Everybody in my family is in blood. Gang banging, everything else. I was 12 years old and held an AK-47 in my hand. You don't know me. So if you don't take the time to understand me, how can you help me? God is not through with me yet. But if you really knew my story, you know why I carry myself the way that I carry myself. On another personal note, her and I sit on meetings. We're going to talk about the microaggressions. They spent the whole time talking to her because they thought she was the boss. I am clearly on the website. And this sexy face, get you something. Right? And they kept talking to her. And I'm sitting there. I ain't saying nothing. So what do you think, Mira? She says, well, let me ask my boss. Jameer, what do you think? I think you should stand up and we're leaving. I am not your Negro. In 1 year, I can say this emphatically. We've turned down $250,000 and we only had $20,000 in the bank because I didn't believe in what they was trying to give us. And the consequences of associating myself with that would have compromised our integrity as an organization and me as a man. More rapidly than others, the stress from frequent racist encounters leads to chronic low-grade inflammation in black women. That pregnant women reporting high levels of discrimination tend to have babies with lower birth rates. The psychology of coming in there asking you for help, when it tells me if I ask you for help, I'm not going to get optimum care, and this thing that I held in my stomach for 9 months has a chance of not making it. What do? Because we don't own any hospitals. You all burnt them down in Tulsa. What do? When it's a lot harder for blacks to get into Ivy League schools and medical schools because your criteria is so high that we can't attain it, or we can't afford it. But we got the grades, it's just our skin ain't letting us in. The nervousness around asking for help is a lot deeper than you think. I have to work up the nerve to come to you. I have to struggle for so long before I come to you. And you think we just wake up one day, let me go to this agency. We tossed and turned all night. We prayed. We called our grandmothers. We called our mothers. What can I do not to go in here? Because I know that these people are going to treat me like they don't see me. I've sat in the Richmond General Assistance Office with a youth who was in a shelter. They treated this young man like dirt because I let him go to the counter because I told him, watch how they act when I come stand beside you. And what they didn't know was this 22-year-old man was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And that's another thing too, folks. We get on black men about why we don't go to therapy and we need therapy. It's because if we go in for a simple mood disorder, we are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia that leads to Seroquel. I know what Seroquel is because my brother was on it. We can't even take our mask off and be vulnerable in a doctor's office. I just told you this man never met me and wanted to put me on one of the strongest medicines out there. I fought going into his office because I knew what they were going to tell me. So for us in this business, take what you would do off the table. Because let's just be real. A lot of us in here, we may dress up nice, but we're one check away from switching sides. Whether you want to admit it or not, that bank account is great as, like my grandmother say, she ain't had no money, but I dress up and I make broke look good. Because that's what's going to keep you humble. That's what's going to keep you from thinking so much of yourself and not judging. Even when it comes to schools, and a parent walks in the building, and automatically the defenses go up. If they show any kind of, I know what I'm talking about. But for a lot of black parents, we on the sideline watching. And 9 times out of 10, when we come into that room, we have already done our research. And all we want is a fair chance for you and I, and the school clinician and the principal, to talk about the benefits or the positives that you see in my child before you start raining down negatives. We have MCOE in here, and I love you guys. One of the suggestions that I made was, how about we start calling families with positive updates? Hey, how you doing? We don't want anything. Your kid is doing great. See how the psychology of that flows into the community? So now when I see your number, I'm not like, oh shit. Somebody's suspended. For nonprofits, you can do the same thing. It's okay to talk to more than 2 black people. And you're providing services. And I always say Marin City gave me my chance. Without Marin City, there would be no Marin County Cooperation Team. I can emphatically say that. And the sad part is that Marin City, that I know, in 2021, was recognized as one of being the top social innovative places in the world through the Equitable Green Award. That is not my award, that is the award that Marin City helped me get. But you all don't even see that. And so when people got to get on a bus to come up to San Rafael or, come to MCOE or everywhere else, and they got to encounter people who are already judgmental, I'm just here to talk. Can we talk about busing? Can we talk about pre-K? I think my kid may be autistic or have some other developmental disabilities. What programs do you have? We don't even get to that conversation because I ain't dressed properly. Black Americans who try to overcome the racism in their educational and professional lives may be most affected by these processes. How many of you heard of John Henry? So you know the story of John Henry. He went against a machine to prove that the machine cannot outwork him. And what did it cost him? His life. We exhaust ourselves in this place called Marin County, hoping that we show you that we're good enough for you to see us. And if you notice, everything that I'm talking about reverts back to the psychology and the strength it requires and the vulnerability that it requires to come in and ask for help. In the hopes to push past the restrictions that are placed on us. We just want a chance. The science shows how you treat us is killing us. It is killing our babies. It is killing the mothers during birth. It is forcing black men to be on medications for misdiagnosis. 70% of the prison population reads at a 4th grade level. And we know that there are some young men and women in there who have been misdiagnosed and overly medicated because they went to or was afraid of an institution for help. And that resulted into me leading down this path. When you take away the programming, and I'm going to say this, when you give more money to an organization that take a whole lot of pictures and don't do a whole lot of nothing, and when you ask them for the data, what are you doing and everything else, they can't give you a damn thing. But that's your favorite black person. And that's who you go to. Meanwhile, Marin is out there kicking butt, finding people everywhere else. You look right past her. She is more than an aide. She is a conductor, a liaison between communities. It's okay to talk to other black people. And I'm gonna keep saying this. It's okay to hold us accountable, but do not hold us down. Thank you. Any questions?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. So nobody want to say anything.
Gotta get warmed up for your breakout groups.
Come on now.
I would say I just appreciate you sharing those experiences. And the local experience is very important because we all can share in that experience of what we have and being vulnerable in those spaces. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Chief Washington. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make a comment on just how true some of that data is, just being an African-American woman. And I like to shop, or I go to Ross, or any other department store, and I follow. Now, granted, I'm a crazy shopper. I go get it, put it back. I do all kind of crazy stuff. But to just the way they follow, and by the time I leave.
Right. And that's a hard thing.
That's exactly.
Because everybody else is
This is the education director of the. I said there was some history there.
Yeah, I used to know.
And it's a lot. And
Talk about exciting possibilities. You wanted to tell a little bit about what they've been meeting for like 2 or 3 weeks ago.